Good morning, everybody. This is Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest, and today we're going to ask the question, what would you change about Ni no Kuni if you could? Let's go ahead and dig in. So I would love to just have the general conversation with everyone about what they would love to see changed about Ni no Kuni. Now, I know there's been a lot of frustration with pets recently, but I think there's a lot of fundamental things that the game could change in order to kind of align itself with other gacha games across the spectrum and to make it much more accessible for new players to come to the game, particularly on the North American side, as well as to retain current players. So the first thing that I put on the list that they actually worked on more recently is an improvement to beginner rewards. I think, right now the game has such an emphasis on horizontal progression and playing the game for the long run that if you are a new player coming into the game, unless you're going to spend thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, you're never going to catch up. So it's one of those things where I think the players that are joining the game and starting to play the game need to really have a way to boost themselves up, to make themselves relevant in order to enjoy the game. Another thing that I wanted to talk about was familiar based content, because I don't know about all of you guys, I love familiar content. I personally, if they could make a whole game out of familiar adventure, I would love it. I think they have the base of a potentially really good sub game or mini game within Ni no Kuni, and I really want to see them expand on that. I know that we have a kingdom battle format coming where we are going to be using familiars. I want more. I love the familiar battle-based content. I think it's so much fun, and I think a lot of people agree with me on that. In terms of actual game kind of fundamental mechanics, I actually want to see a change to the pity system and to the pull system. I think the pity system is very outdated for Ni no Kuni. You look at the most recent Tower of Fantasy that just came out, their pity is at 80 and 40. So that would be like if Ni no Kuni had a pity at 80 for familiars and 40 for equipment. It is remarkably different. So I think the pity system is way too steep in Ni no Kuni. Unless you're going to maybe just keep the pity on both banners no matter what, or have a universal pity, might be a little bit better, kind of like the original familiar pull pity bar that we have. The other thing I'd like to see is I'd like to see the change for summon and equipment tickets to not count as 0.5 of a pity. I don't know where that idea came from or who thought that was a good idea. They should count as a single pity. They should count as a 1.0 pity. I don't care what you say, what you think, that needs to be done. That's just, that's what the market's doing. That's where the gacha games are at. It just doesn't make sense. If you want Ni no Kuni to be competitive, if you want it to attract new people to play the game, this is something that you're going to have to change. Now, recently they did implement a Terite pass, and you can see that by going to the daily perks here, and it gives a plus 100% Terite drop rate. And I think for me, and I've talked about this a little bit before, and people may have different opinions on this, I would like to see this just implemented permanently. Or implemented with one of the other passes. I think there's way too many weekly passes. I think the weekly Terite pass is literally selling you a solution that you shouldn't have to have or shouldn't have to buy because it should just be part of the game, right? Instead of, if we're talking about like the value of Terite, right, and wanting to preserve the value of Terite, what you could do is you could, instead of increasing the Terite drop rate, you could have the cost of Terite consuming materials in the game, right? There's a lot of things you could do, and I feel like selling the solution for $4.99 was not the solution, and is literally one of the cheapest things that Netmarble can sell, and it's very convenient, but it kind of pisses me off. It's one of those things where I'm just like, really? It's the whole Terite system, when we're talking about inventing a problem, creating a problem for a game, I don't mind it, but when it's very forced, when you're forcing it to work, that's when it's a problem. The value of Terite or the value of NKT, NKA, and Marblex will go up naturally if you make it easy in the ecosystem, if you make it something that is simple, easy, right? And the way that it's set up right now, it's not simple, it's jank, it's, like the reason we have the NKT event, exchange event going on for so long is because it's been jacked up the whole time. So something to think about there. Removing Territe from crafting was a really big one. It was also pointed out that having some type of a pity on enhancement would be really nice for players, because there's a lot of players who are at that plus 19 to plus 21 wall. It consumes a lot of Territe for them, and they're stuck. They're not having fun. So having some type of pity for enhancement would be great. Personally, I'd like to see some type of a pity for cursing as well. I think the server-based rewards for Asterite, for Lava Valley, as well as for Familiar Arena, need to be adjusted. I think they need to be adjusted so that free-to-play have a larger access to Asterite, particularly if Asterite is going to be something that you're going to lock game mechanics behind, such as pet summon tickets. You should make it so that a reasonably powerful free-to-play player can access that. And it's interesting because a lot of people say, well, I'm free to play and I can access it. Well, you're probably playing Engineer, right? Or you're playing on a server that is really easy to get into top 100. Or you're playing on a server that, you got dumb lucky, right? Like, there's a lot of things to factor in. And I think, it's really easy to be on like a really small server, hit top 100 in Familiar Arena and be like, oh, this is so easy, right? When in reality, you go to another server, or you go to the Southeast Asia servers, and that's not the case there. So being able to change it based on server to reward players and not necessarily punish them, I think would be really important. I mentioned this already, consolidating the weekly purchase banners, please. Like, I will spend more money on this game. Just don't make me buy 4 $20 passes in order to make it feel like I am having to be competitive, right? More ways to acquire Purification medals. This is a pretty big one for me. I feel like Purification medals are literally the hardest thing to get in the game, and all they give you are access to literally emoticons. Like emojis shouldn't be this hard to get. Like, I shouldn't have to go and grind for hours on end to try and get my weekly stamp chest. Like, really? Come on, make it easier. Like, it's not, I don't know. Just make it easier to get these. It's not hard. Please. I think changing the conversion of Swift solutions to Conquest should be 1-to-1. Most recently, I learned that at level 100, there is a drop penalty and you can't use your Swift solutions anymore. And I've always noticed that you can convert your Swift solutions for 3-to-1 into Conquest missions. And while that is really good, if it was 1-to-1, it would give a lot more balance to the game, particularly for free-to-play, where free-to-play would be able to get more gummies, they would be able to get more mount items, and they wouldn't be as restricted in terms of potentially catching up to the whales. It would give them an avenue to pursue in order to remain competitive, and I don't think it would punish the whales very much either. Server transfer and server consolidation, we need it. Especially on the North American side, we need server consolidation, or we need server transfer. Like, if the changes aren't going to be implemented to make the new player experience better, or to make the experience of players across the board retain or stay in the game, then we need this. So we need something like this implemented so that we can actually get into the game and have players join guilds that are empty, or join, make new guilds, right? There's a lot of things I think could be improved here, and this is only really the tip of the iceberg. I think there's a lot that could fundamentally be changed. I feel like Ni no Kuni has amazing bones, right? It has amazing bones, and right now Netmarble is just like hurling fat onto it, and they just keep hurling more fat and more fat, and they're not shaping it, they're just like throwing it and trying to hit a head or hit a body or hit a leg. And if they just had a little bit more refinement and a little bit more vision for how to kind of implement these changes in the game and improve things, right? we would probably be in a lot better situation than we are right now. I mean, even right now, it feels like there's no content coming out for the game. We just had 2 weeks of updates, and all of a sudden there's no update this week. So I'm really confused. Did we all of a sudden go to weekly updates? Did we go from bi-weekly to like, here's an emergency pet implementation update? Was it for stockholders so that you could say, yeah, we implemented pets for the stockholders for like a quarterly goal? There's just no real communication. So lots of things to think about, lots of things to talk about. I'm really looking forward to what you guys say down below in the descriptions. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.